Hey guys, so economics is a really hard subject, so I just want to make sure that everybody understands everything and that if you have any questions, make sure that you are logging into Zoom, okay? So this PowerPoint is really about economic activities and then looking at industry versus agriculture and small versus big, okay? So let's go ahead and talk about economic activity first. When you have a new country and you are just like born into it, the only thing for sure thing that you would probably have is land. Okay, so this is going to be our first step in becoming economically more developed. Think of Clash of Clans. Okay, so in Clash of Clans, like you register and then all of a sudden you have this little tiny village and you have this land and you have two choices. Okay, you could either farm the land and try and make money that way, or you can mine the land and you are going to be looking for natural resources. So coal, oil, timbers, wood, forests, those are all going to be natural resources that you are able to somehow make some type of profit, okay? Think of every time that you have turned on heating in your home, whether that is the heater because it's cold, even though it's Houston and it's not, or whether that is, think of how many times that you've turned on the stove or turned on the microwave in your home. 1800s, we would have only had coal to do that. So coal is super important. Oil, right, gets us gasoline, and then timbers, forests. So all of these raw materials are going to be very important to kind of help start off a country. The next level is going to be factories, and that word industrial. Every single time you think of industrial, you always need to think of factories, okay? In a factory, you need those raw materials to come into your factories so you could make something else. So if I were to make rocking chairs, okay, my factory is rocking chairs, what do I need to constantly be coming in so I can make my rocking chairs? Well, I need wood. I need that timber. So that timber needs to constantly be coming in order to make the rocking chair. A long time ago, the U.S., when the U.S. was a primary country, we had plantations and we had cotton, and all of that cotton was sent to England because England, they had tons of factories. And so England would use those factories to make clothing, and that's how they got rich. It's one of the reasons why plantations were so profitable back in the day here in the U.S. Our next level is going to be tertiary. It just means 3. These are not fancy economic labels that we have. It just means 3. And it's service. So think of a teacher who is, you might have a paper at the end of the day, or you might have a notebook filled with information, but like a teacher is supposed to be providing you information for your head. A maid goes into your home and they are going to service your home. They are going to clean it. You're not going to get like a brand new home. You're just going to clean the one that you already have. Think of a doctor who's going to diagnose your illness, a lawyer who is going to give you legal advice. A waiter is a great example. Like, we're not paying the waiter for the food. The waiter is just bringing it out to us and making sure our, drinks stay filled. Transportation, a driver for a big, huge 18-wheeler. They are going to move the items from the factory to the stores, okay? So they are not making the items. They are not, making the raw materials for the items. The drivers, they're just driving, and that's a really important service so that people like you and me could have access to it at the stores. And then finally, quaternary. Quaternary just means level 4, and this is going to be information-based. So this is going to be anything that you are going to need a computer and information in order to do it. So you could do like data entry. My mom works at the hospital, and her job is to input data, like your insurance, register you for the hospital. So she's going to need like your name, and she's going to need your insurance information so that she can put that into the computer and then send that information to the people who need it. My dad is an accountant, so he does mysterious math stuff on the computer all day long for these really big corporations. My husband is an engineer, so he is looking at all of the how to make these products. He's a contractor for NASA, so he is going to look on the computer and find out the best way to make this product and ship it off to space safely, and make sure that once it's in outer space that it works the way it needs to. So he is also dealing with like a lot of information and, working on the computer all the time. So those are our 4 levels of jobs and the economic activities. You need to know that for the quiz on Friday. All of this stuff we're going to fill out at the end of the video. Looking at this one, oh man, we didn't talk about fishing. So which economic activity would fishing fall under? I need you to go back into the chart and look at all of these different choices. Which one is really focusing on the land? Okay, so I need you to think really hard for that one. Then our next question is waitress. She is providing a service. So what economic activity does that fall under? And then here we have scientists. Scientists, they have data and they have hypotheses and they have a lot of information. So which economic activity are they going to fall under? Primary, we know it has to do off of the land. Secondary has a lot to do with factories. Now here we go. Let's talk about agriculture. Agriculture means you are growing plants, okay? And there are really kind of 2 branches off of it. You are either going to grow a small amount of plants to feed your family, or maybe your small village. So we're going to grow just a little bit. Looking at this picture, we are seeing how, man, this woman has her kids, I'm going to assume they're her kids, working on the farm. And look, there's no really fancy machines. They are just using, like, I'm sure it's a hoe. It just looks like a regular stick. And they're going to be making enough food just to feed either their family or maybe their little tiny village, okay? And lots of labor, okay? On commercial agriculture, which I don't even need to tell you, like, guys, before we even look, what does commercial mean? Is commercial going to be small or is it going to be big? Looking at this picture, look at all that farmland and it's the same crop. If this was corn, is anybody, I don't care how much you love corn, that's a lot of corn. And now all of a sudden, if you eat all of that corn, you're going to be sick because that's not a healthy diet. It's not well balanced. So when we're looking at a commercial agriculture, they are making a whole bunch of stuff of one thing, of one crop, but then they're going to sell it to a whole lot of people. So this is a whole lot. This is really big, okay? Looking at these pictures. Oh, look, that's not a fancy machine. That's just, I don't know what it is. We're using animals. It looks like there's a family that's working on the farm on this little piece of land, and it's all by hand. So is this going to be making a lot of crops or is this going to be making a little? Okay. Looking on the other side, look at all of those chickens. That is a lot of chickens, those poor chickens. Are these chickens going to feed family for like just one little family, or is this going to feed thousands of families? Okay, lots and lots. Here we have a fancy machine. I think it's called a silo. I don't really know. Here we have a big, huge farm. Again, it's only one crop and they are making a lot of it. Okay, so they're going to be selling a whole bunch once they make it. Looking at cottage industry. When industry, that word means that we are building something. Okay, so we're not talking about plants, we're talking about building something. Cottage is a small home, and commercial, right? Again, commercial means big. So looking at this picture, this looks like a person working out of their home. So do you think that person is going to be making a lot of things or just a little? Okay. Looking at this one, we already see 3 or 4 cars in this picture. So we know that this building has to be really big. Is this building going to be making a lot of things or just a little of things? Okay. On a factory system, which is what this is, they're going to be mass producing. Okay, look at this. This looks like a factory. Look at all of the stuff that they are producing. Look at that fancy machine. Look at how big this area is and how many people are working there. And I do not see a single kid. I don't see like a family unit that's working. So is this going to be cottage or is this going to be commercial? Looking on this side, this looks like maybe someone's home. And on this one, we have two ladies that are sitting together and working, and you can tell that they're working by hand. This is like a table, but in neither picture do I see like a fancy machine. And it looks like it's taking them, it looks like it's taking time to make these because they're doing it with their hands. So are they going to be making one or two a day, or are they going to be making hundreds a day? Okay. So keeping that in mind, is it going to be commercial or is it going to be cottage? More pictures of a cottage, more pictures of a commercial. Let's look at this one. When you are looking at these and you have about 5 of these that you have to work through, I need you to answer 2 questions, okay? First, is it industry or agriculture? Industry, are they making something or are they growing something? Okay, so looking at this picture, it looks like it is industry, okay? So now we have to decide, is it cottage industry where it's small, or is it commercial industry where it's big? So this looks like a warehouse, so because it looks big, like a commercial, and they are building stuff, this is going to be commercial industry. Let's go to the next one. This one, are they making something or are they growing something? Is this going to be small where it just feeds one family, or is this big where this is going to feed a lot of people? Same here. This lady, she has her little baby helping her out. Is she making something or growing something? Is she making a lot of something or is she making just a little? Look at how they're doing it by hand. And I know that if I had to make something with a pattern, I would be messing up a lot and having to redo it. And it would take me forever to just make one. I'm sure that these ladies are super fast. Let's talk about this one. So HEB. Is HEB growing this on a farm? No. If you and your family go into HEB, can you possibly eat every single food? No. You're going to get sick. It's a lot of food. Okay, standards of living. Standard of living refers to how well people live based on criteria such as GDP, which means like the money, how rich or poor the country is. Literacy rates. Literacy means that you are able to read. Healthcare. So if you are on campus here at school, we have a nurse. So if you're not feeling well, you could go and see the nurse. So everyone on campus has access to healthcare. Yay. Housing. Whether you live in an apartment or whether you live in a house, we have regular trash people who come and pick up all of the trash. So our streets and our yards and the area stays clean. There's not filth and junk and nastiness, okay? So that is really important, okay? Our homeless people here in America, they can go to a shelter and they could get water and they could get food. So even our homeless people are still really, really well off, okay? In other parts of the country, rich people have a hard time keeping up with, healthcare and clean homes. So we are very lucky to be Americans. Standard of living. So this is the standard of living of Canada, US, and UK. Japan is also part of this really high income. So we have a high standard of living. Some of the low ones, we have half of Africa and China over here. where their standard of living is not going to be as nice because maybe there is overpopulation. Maybe they don't have access to clean water, and maybe they don't have really awesome education where they are able to teach everybody how to read. Maybe they don't have access to books. You need a book in order to read, to learn how to read, right? Well, I mean, I guess now we have tablets. Okay, so there you go. Let's look at this. Here is what's going on. This is going to be the literacy rates and birth rates. So a farm is going to be a farmer. You could probably learn by watching others. You don't have to actually read a book in order to do it. The same thing is going to be true for factories, okay? So in a factory, you're going to learn by watching someone else, and so you don't really need to read a book to learn how to do it. Maybe reading a book would be harder to do. Like it's easier if you see someone doing the job that you're expected to do. So for those areas, they are going to have low literacy rates, okay? A teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, those are occupations where it is super important that you are able to read. If you cannot read and you have that job, it's going to be really hard for you to do a good job. Information based, if you are constantly putting in computers or working on the computer, putting information in the computer, you need to be able to read. And that's, passing along that information back and forth. Reading is going to be super important. If you are living in a place, in a country where they need a lot of people to work on farms, then most likely you are going to have high birth rates. Families are going to be really big because we need for all of them to be working on the farm in order to put in that labor. Factories, the same thing. We need a lot of people working in factories and doing what they need to do in order to make this stuff. So we are going to see high birth rates in those countries. In what we are seeing here in the United States, we are seeing that families used to be really big and now they're kind of getting smaller. Of course, there was this one kid who, he says he has 6 siblings. He has a lot. And yeah, there are some families that, they're still big, but then most of the people that were in class, they only had 1 or 2 other siblings. So we're just kind of noticing that the trend is getting smaller and smaller because we don't need all of those kids working in the fields, working on the farm. Your standard of living is usually going to always follow your literacy rates, okay? If you have a good life, more than likely, you being able to read is going to kind of be a major indicator. And so in most cases, your standard of living matches your literacy rates. So, okay, guys, bye.